Everybody for joining Ross and I today. Again, my name is Simon Quinn. I'm the Director of Sales for CertaPro Solutions. And today we're going to be talking about some of everybody's favorite topic, which is inventory. So specifically, we're going to be talking about how to manage inventory, which can be a headache for any business, particularly those with high volume sales and items that move in and out of their warehouses frequently. So we're going to discuss CertaPro's Automated Inventory Cycle Count tool, or AICC for short. It can help companies automate and simplify their inventory counts. So while today's demo is going to be focused on 100, I just wanted to briefly point out that AICC also works with Sage 300 and 500. So if your clients or your clients are using these platforms, what you'll see today will be applicable to them. So first, I'm going to give you an overview of our automated inventory cycle count and the inventory counting concepts behind it. And then I'll jump into a live demo in Sage 100. But first off, I wanted to start with something light. So if any of your clients complain that their current inventory process feels like this, CertaPro has a solution for you. So you can see in this cartoon, the penguins are engaged in their own inventory process. I mean, it's impossible, right? I mean, neither of these things can be actually counted because the number of items and their location is in constant flux. So I get the point this cartoon is making, but inventory doesn't have to be this confusing or feel this unknowable. So if you or any of your customers feel this way about the inventory process, they're doing it wrong. So today I'm going to introduce you to a better way. So we've worked with businesses with high volume sales for quite some time, and we've created an inventory management tool specifically designed to meet their needs. So people who are Sage users know that there is no easy way to manage cycle counting in Sage. We know that there is a gap, and this tool bridges that gap. So AICC saves companies time and money while giving them more accurate inventory counts. It integrates with ScanCo that Ross is going to show after this demo, and the handheld scanning devices, as well as multi-bin if you have that. So it's easy for companies to install and to use. So the secret to better inventory management is implementing a continuous cycle counting program throughout the year, rather than having to rely on an annual physical count or a count that's done twice a year. Using cycle counting to maintain high levels of accuracy is one of the best ways to identify problem areas in inventory. So an effective cycle counting program like CertaPro's AICC tool also eliminates the need for physical inventory expenses. So by performing regular cycle counts, businesses give themselves the opportunity to compare the quantities in Sage to the quantities counted. And this variance provides a powerful opportunity for companies to identify where their inventory system is working well, where there is a low variance, or where they have a control issue that needs to be tightened up, where there's a high variance. Some of the more important practical differences, between a traditional physical inventory counts and using cycle counting program like AICC. When you use a cycle counting program, the warehouse staff perform regular cycle counts of segments of the company's inventory. So companies can designate different cycle counts for different items and assign more frequent counts to higher value items. So with the cycle counts determining how many times each type of item is counted per year. So in a physical inventory, companies often have to suspend operations until the counting process is complete. And as we all know, closing down a business for any period of time is costly. Paying employees overtime, if that's the case, to handle a physical inventory count can add up as well. So these are expenses that our automated inventory cycle count software can help businesses reduce or eliminate. So you can imagine the benefits. I mean, you'll be able to enjoy an easier and more organized day-to-day working life with a clearly defined logic to your inventory planning process. So with that, let's jump into Sage and show you how this functions and works. All right, so you'll see here, I have Sage 100 open up, and we have created our software under the inventory management, under physical count. Once you acquire the software, the module will be placed here called CPS Inventory Cycle Count Entry. And upon opening it, you'll see that is a single screen user face. Very simple to use, very simple to manage. The warehouses up here are identified by a code. You can, if you have multiple warehouses, you can use this arrow to go through and filter through them. And once you, each warehouse that you select is going to have its own schedule, and you can configure what time you want to generate the cycle count per warehouse. You can also set up automatic email notifications by warehouse. So once you select a warehouse, you'll see that these three grids, the top, the middle, and the bottom, all populate. So the top grid is the filtering section. The middle grid represents the filtering choices and shows you what you have assigned into the cycle count intervals. The bottom here is the summary based on your setup. So it shows you here how many items per day that you will be counting. So as I go through the filters up here, you'll see I have all valuations, I have all product types, and all procurement. And by selecting or deselecting any one of these checkboxes, you will see that the middle grid will populate accordingly. I can also drill down to certain fields. So if I want to take a look at, let's say, price, I want to look at items, a standard unit price that are greater than, let's say, $1,000. Plug that in. You can see that those items that have a value of $1,000 and up are populated now here. So I can work with this group of items. So the filtering is a very powerful tool to get to where you need to be. So once you filter down to the specific sets of items that you know you want to work with, now you can go ahead and perform your update. So here I already have items that are showing greater than $1,000, and I want to assign them to an inventory cycle category and define how many times I want them to be counted. But before jumping into that, I'm going to just cover some of these acronyms here, these abbreviations, and tell you what these mean. So here we have YCC. Up top, you'll see that that says yearly cycle count. So upon implementation, or when you add an item, it's going to have a value of -1, meaning that you have not touched those items yet. So when you move it to 0, that means that you have added the item to be inventoried and counted. You can also have a number between 1 and 52, which means that you can assign an item to be counted once a week, once a month, or whatever interval that you require. And the update's actually pretty simple. You can do it line item by line item, or if I click this corner box here, it selects every single item that I'm working with. And I can come down here to the yearly cycle count and assign a number. So for example, if I wanted to change all of these to 12, I can assign that, and it automatically updates the yearly cycle count to 12. Now, if you're working with a number of items, we all know how many items some warehouses or how many SKUs you might have. You can right-click on this and export these items to Excel, and then generate the yearly cycle count in that Excel spreadsheet, and then export it back in. So it makes it a little easier to manage the items. So you have that option available to you too. Jumping back here to RC, which is remaining count. This is another powerful tool that allows you to set up items that are going to be discontinued. So we know that some items are not going to be in your inventory perpetually. So this basically allows you to define how many more times you want that item to be counted. So it's automatically, once that count happens, it automatically falls off the cycle count process, and it's going to update the yearly cycle count to 0. So it will not be included in any other counts. Jumping across here for FCNT, which is forced count next time, FCAT, which is forced count all the time, and then hold. For hold, we know that in every warehouse, there's going to be scenarios where you will pull certain items temporarily to hold, and you don't want to lose those items. You don't want those items, I should say, to be included in the count until the item is released back into inventory. So that's how you would manage that here. For forced counts next time, FCNT, if you find a discrepancy and you want it to be resolved ASAP, the item in question might be scheduled for a count 2 months from now, but you don't want to wait. So by checking this box here, when you generate the cycle count, that item is going to be included. Force count all the time is pretty straightforward. If you want to force a count every single time on an item, you can check that box, and it's going to be generated with the next count. So jumping up to the upper right-hand corner, you can see on the scheduler. So this is where you have the option to schedule the cycle count automatically. So as you can see, we're simply using the task scheduler from Sage 100, and here you can schedule what days of the week that you want to run the cycle count. Active warehouse. Basically, if you have multiple warehouses, this shows you all the active warehouses and allows you to manage them, either to have them active or not. Clicking on the options here is, there's a number of different options here, and I'm not going to go through all of them for time purposes, but this is where you would enter the email addresses for the notifications to the warehouse staff that's going to be involved in the counts, and I'll show you that shortly. There's also a number of options here that you may or may not want your employees to see certain information. One of the powerful checkboxes here is the rollover YCC count from large to small. It's a helpful option for A, B, C item rankings. So for example, once all of the A items have been counted, it's going to pull the items from the B category and maintain the same number of items to be counted per day. The exception days, once I open that, this basically allows you to open up, select a day, and there's going to be two basic types. One is going to be the holiday, and one is going to be the vacation. So the holiday type is going to apply to all warehouses, and the vacation type is going to apply to a single warehouse. So while this generates automatically in the background, and I have it scheduled for 2 a.m., but that time could be defined by you, at any given point, you also have an option to do a manual generation. So once your count's been generated, I want to go ahead and take a look, and let's take a look at the spreadsheet that is delivered via email to the assigned warehouse team. So here's from the count that I generated. It's an email that is a CSV file that tells them what needs to be counted. So here you have the item code, the description, the bin location, the last count date, as well as additional information. So if you're using a scanner that Ross is going to show us shortly after this, you can push this information directly to the scanners, and you can quickly go and verify all of the counts and perform the updates into Sage. So we'll jump into the physical count entry program, and here you'll see the line items that are that match up here, and this is where you would put in the counts. So once the count's been run, you obviously want to know, certain information. Basically, how accurate is the inventory? And so for that purpose, we have for this reason, we've created an explorer called a CPS Inventory Cycle Count History. And so this is the place that you will find the items that not only have a discrepancy, but also all of the items that have been counted throughout the year that have been accurate. And so here you can look through how many items are being counted each day, what was the counted quantity, and additional information. So it's completely customizable. And lastly, for those users that are familiar with Explorer, you can drag and drop fields and use filters to analyze the data. So you can also export this to Excel, as you may or may not know. So with that, I'm going to wrap up here. One of the key questions that we sometimes get is regarding items being frozen. And we know that Sage uses that word frozen. AICC does not freeze items. The key here is to capture the difference from what is on hand and what has been counted. So it doesn't freeze the counts, as some people think that that's the case. So with that, I'm sure there might be questions, and hopefully we can get to them at the end of this. But I'm going to hand this back to Ross, and we'll jump into the scan code part of the presentation.